We'll be starting our next panel discussion on transactional AI agents.
Shall we begin? Hello, everyone. This is going to be transactional AI agents. So I'm your moderator, Vader, founder of VaderAI. We're the one of the largest AI agents on virtuals. And let's have a round of introductions.
Yeah, hey, I'm Bury. I'm one of the leads at Virtuals Ventures. We're the ecosystem fund of Virtuals Protocol.
I am Boris, product manager at Eliza Labs. And so basically what we are is we're a multi-agent simulation framework. We allow anyone to basically build, deploy, and manage AI agents, autonomous AI agents on our platform.
And I'm Henri, so I'm the co-founder of OKcontract, and I'll give a keynote about OKcontract, but thanks for coming all today. And basically, we are building a middleware layer to help AI agents transact on-chain and humans.
Awesome. So we have AI agent enthusiasts in this panel. Let's start with why you like AI agents. What potential do you see in AI agents?
Yeah, happy to start. I think, I mean, it's a very broad question, and I think we can take it many different ways. But actually, one way I think about agents is solving the UI UX problem that has been plaguing crypto since, I think, the early days, right? I think specifically on DeFi, there are so many things that you can do, so many ways that you can grow and preserve your wealth. But it's, I think, physically impossible for a human to actually keep up with these things and understand, you know, how to use, you know, whether you're doing, I don't know, yield farming, or whether you're you know, doing perps or any type of DeFi. So I think the potential of agents is actually to remove all that complexity and actually focus on outcomes, right? So if you say, hey, look, this is what I want to achieve within this time frame, maybe within certain parameters, just go do it. I don't care what it looks like, but just go do it.
So the way you think of agents is a bit more like the account abstraction layer, meaning, you know, I want to buy this token, and I don't want to deal with all the complexities and frictions or the bridging, etc. And you expect agents to do that, like, so a bit more the DeFi utility focus.
On the DeFi side, right? So it's almost like taking account abstraction and intent to the next level, the next logical level, which is, you know, I want to achieve this outcome. Help me achieve this outcome, and without me having to just navigate all these, you know, mostly horrible UI that exists today. Of course, I think this can be translated outside of DeFi to, you know, also like a lot of real-world applications. And at Virtuals, we're seeing increasing number of teams building what people outside the cryptosphere would want to use, things like, you know, ordering food, booking travel, these kind of things. And I mean, ordering food, I think generally it's not too painful, but say like booking travel, right? You say, hey, I want to go to a warm place at the end of April, right? Then you have to think about how do I get there, you know, flights, hotels, cars, etc. So again, abstracting all those things as an example is something I think agents could achieve.
Okay, makes sense.
So from my perspective, I think I see agents as more neurons or cells within a larger system. And so there are many capabilities that we currently have, but I think it's only going to expand over time exponentially. And so for us right now, we're working on is our new version, which we call V2, version 2. And so the biggest thing that we're focusing on is what we call swarm intelligence, so multi-agent orchestration. And with that, I think the capabilities really kind of expand, like I said, exponentially. And so I think another thing that we're excited about is we are completely moving our plugin system outside of our core so that it basically becomes permissionless, allowing for kind of greater innovation. So we're very excited to work with OKcontract, for example, to work on that part of it as well. But yeah, I think in terms of crypto, I do see the capabilities, but I think it's going to be more, in terms of retail widespread adoption, I think it'll be less crypto and more just everyday lifestyle abstractions, just like you mentioned. So yeah.
Cool. Just one question there. So you said you're working on the V2 of Eliza, and you said it's going to be the stuff is going to be permissionless, right? Especially the plugins, yeah. So in the current state, when someone submits a plugin, it needs to be approved by one of the community members, right? Like core members. So going forward, this is going to be fully permissionless?
Yeah, fully permissionless, and the way we're doing that is we're basically going to allow people to, like I said, innovate and create as fast as they want to without any kind of need for internal review. But there will be a trust score system, essentially that kind of not only verifies but gives a trust score in terms of how capable we think or how much we trust in this plugin to work with the Eliza framework.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Oh yeah. So basically, I was going to say that I agree that the hype about AI agents will start with something very mundane, which is basically token trading, and especially not the best tokens. And this will probably evolve towards wallet management and other kind of DeFi projects, which are probably way more sustainable, and towards really general adoption for everyday's life. Like, for instance, filing taxes is something an agent should do better than myself, for instance. And that's the same for every administrative process, like remind you of renewing your IDs or whatever. And if you combine all that and take all the burden of administrative tasks that you do right now as they become on-chain, that would be a life changer, and AI agents will do that, most probably. So it will become very broad, in my opinion.
Okay, interesting. So I feel like the stuff we discuss about like an agent, like at some point it's a bit like a bot, basically, right? It's like the agent side of it is the LLM that, like, when we speak to it, when we give the order or what we desire, that's when the agent side comes in. But anything above that sounds a bit more like a bot, kind of based on how we're thinking about this, especially like DeFi agents. It's really more account abstraction than actually LLM. So, for example, you want to do something, either you can press a button or you can chat with a human sounding, feeling thing to give that order. What would you guys think about this statement? Is there anything I'm missing?
So I fully agree on that. Like, for instance, I've discussed to some people here who basically are building trading boats, and there's not even an LLM involved in these tapes. So it's just some kind of deterministic algorithm somewhere. So it's not even the full extent. So I fully agree that the first use case are basic, but what we call really an agent is something that has an underlying graph, and these graphs includes a lot of nodes that call LLMs. These nodes think, make some decisions, and then there's state management who checks whether it's good, whether it needs to be researched more, etc., whether we should call more agents, and then it becomes really an ecosystem things where, because agent can start calling each other. And that's where you really have the life of multi-agent frameworks, for instance.
Okay. You wanna go, son?
Yeah, I think just from my perspective, I think in many ways we all are still, maybe, at least I look at it some way. I have to kind of remind myself that when we're speaking about bots, we're still thinking and talking about them as if it's just one individual bots. With swarm intelligence that many people are working on, I think that changes things completely. It's like, what can one human being do versus what can a million do? It's a big difference, right? And so I think that's the way I kind of look at it.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, what do you mean by swarm intelligence? Like, why cannot one agent do it and you need a swarm to do something?
So, for example, if you want to create an entire group of traders, right? You can have an entire group segmented only to do technical analysis, right? Maybe one group to do sentiment analysis. The other one does risk analysis. The other one actually performs and executes the trades. Another one evaluates the trades post-trades. The other ones actually communicate and evaluate everything that the rest of the groups have done. And so the way we look at it is it's multiple agents that will kind of start to take over this communication style of saying, oh, my agent does this or my agent does this. It's more like my group of agents.
I see. They're like, I feel like, are they all really agents, or some of them are a bit like, rule-based bots?
It could be either.
Right, okay. So the idea is more like, we have this problem, and we can break it down into multiple pieces, and it doesn't matter if it's an agent or bot, but it's like not human managed, but it's the problem is basically being solved by a multiple.
Yeah, if they're autonomous, if they can coordinate, they can collaborate, you can get a lot of things done. And so, yeah.
And what do you guys think, like, why do we need crypto for agents? Why don't agents work in Web 2 as well?
I think there's a lot of I guess use cases for crypto and agents, right? And we can discuss, but at a very simple level, I think crypto payment rails can be way more efficient, especially agent-to-agent transactions, right? Which we're not there yet, but I think that's part of the future. Whether you're talking about like swarms of agents, or where you're talking about like, you know, an agent doing a particular service and an agent doing another different service, right? I think crypto payment rails, which may or may not be with stables or other tokens, right? Make a lot of sense, and I think in some ways you can also think about, because that's more, I think, for the transaction side of things, right? But you know, obviously behind the agents, there's a lot of other things that are happening, including, you know, things around, you know, model training, inference data, all these kind of things that can also benefit from, you know, crypto things like tokens, like incentives, alignments to make these the best that can be.
I think you bring up a good point. I think there is some bias involved. I think that many people who were in crypto moved on to AI, and now they're looking at it, okay, how can we affect crypto? So I think there is that level to it. I also think that there is somewhat of a hindrance that marriage actually does between crypto and AI, specifically because I think that the two main components of Web3 I would define as, you know, decentralization and anonymity. I think the latter actually hinders widespread adoption because there is this fear of you know, what happened last week with Bybit, for example. And so we kind of want to be careful in how we communicate our capabilities and our functionalities of AI agents, and then what they can also do with crypto.
Want to go?
No, I just want to say I agree with what you say as well, and that crypto is the very good complement to AI agents. Just because AI agents, if they transact, let's say using fintech, they are going to make API calls, etc. And it's kind of hard to have a hard truth about what the agent does, because you don't have the state of the blockchain, which is basically the ledger that guarantees that everything what happened. And I think that it's a very good symbiotic relation to have the strength of the blockchains with the AI agents, because the AI agents can do a lot of things and very quickly. So to have, let's say, a global state of truth of what the agent does is what blockchain provides. So there's a good synergy in that.
I think maybe one more thing I'll add, and I don't know if actually we're going to talk about this later, but which is around safety and security, and having certain guardrails around maybe not so much the agents themselves, but the assets that the agents can access. And I think this is where smart contracts are ideal to put some, whether it's guardrails or parameters or something for agents to interact. And especially as we move away from the more deterministic model that we have today to a more, I guess, probabilistic model where agents will be in environments that, you know, they've been trained on, but it's a new environment. And that's where you probably need to have these kind of guardrails enabled by smart contracts.
Got it. So you're kind of, if I summarize it, your arguments are, number one, payments, which I think it makes a lot of sense. If I want an agent to order Uber for me, it can do it. But it's because it's using my bank account. It's using my KYC. If you want the agent to transact on behalf of its own sovereignty, it cannot do it, right? So actually with crypto, you give the agent developers more flexibility and freedom to basically experiment, right? Now, when I think about Web 2, experienced Web 2 AI engineers or AI entrepreneurs building agents, I know they're thinking, okay, should I build in crypto or should I just, you know, use Web 2? The first thing that comes to my mind is, yes, I mean, there's a payment and there's like, if you want the agent to manage, I don't know, like a $1 billion worth AUM portfolio, ideally you want some guardrails and you would ideally have smart contracts. But my question is more like, how good do you think the agent development frameworks in Web 3, and this question is to you, compared to the ones in Web 2? Like, how good is ELIZA or game framework how better is it from a LangChain or other Web 2 agent development frameworks?
That's a good question. I can give you my biased answer. I think we are more capable. I think we move faster. I think we have a larger view of what the future looks like. Whereas I think Web 2 players don't really do. They're more reactive than proactive. I think we're more proactive. I'll keep it at that.
Okay.
Maybe one comment on that I'll add is that we are seeing, I don't think we're yet seeing a huge wave of non-Web3 AI folks, coming into the space, but we're definitely seeing a trickle that's getting larger. And I think like some of the reasons are, one, again, on payment rails, they're starting to understand what that means, right? And especially when you talk about stables, I think people that are not crypto native feel a little bit more comfortable with that, right? I think the second one is also around incentives, right? So one of the projects we're working at Virtual Ventures is building a companion agent to when you're basically sitting on the couch watching TV. And if you're watching like an NFL game, it can provide you with betting opportunities on, let's say, the next play. Or if you're watching Bloomberg in the morning, it could maybe provide some advice or even basically say, hey, you're watching this, they just mentioned this, maybe you want to buy some of that or get exposure, something like that. Now, to get there, they actually need to collect a lot of data that nobody has yet on streaming. So it's a very niche, I guess, vertical on data. And the way they're thinking about it, and the whole team is coming from Web 2 AI, is actually using token incentives to be able to have like what do you call it, browser extension to then collect this data and then reward the users for that. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. What do you guys think about wallets, specific wallets just for AI agents?
So let's start with that. So first, there's of course the smart accounts, and the smart accounts are really made for AI agents, and I don't think that anyone will give access to a wallet without it being a smart accounts to agents. And one thing that can be interesting, and this is of course what we are looking for at OKcontract, is to give not, of course, all the permissions to the AI agent themselves, and to put some guardrails. And these guardrails, there's two ways you can make them. There's one way is human-based, like the agent prepares something, and somehow the human needs to review it and say, oh, the AI agent is preparing this for you, and then you need to sign all these transactions by yourself, maybe with some explanation generated by the AI agent, or we could automate it, especially if there's a higher number of transactions, and I think there's going to be a very high number of transactions. And now we need to automate that. And this is something that we're building. So it's a way to have a network, which is going to be a fully decentralized network, that verifies what the agent is doing and automatically authorizes what looks absolutely legit, blocks what seems wrong, and let's say ask the user in case of doubt.
Interesting. Any other comments, thoughts?
I agree with that. I think I was actually thinking of like two analogies to this. I think one, not so much an analogy, but I touched on it earlier, which is around, I think the guardrails have to be on the assets, and I think that's where the agent-to-agent or even agent-to-human wallet infrastructure can come in and set those guardrails, because it's still early, and I think, who knows in the future to what extent agents will, hallucinate in the kind of best case scenario or go rogue in the worst case, right? And I think rather than trying to put guardrails on the agent itself, you can do it on the asset, and this is probably very relevant for DeFi, for large transactions. But again, outside of DeFi, we're going to have agents ordering food or Uber or booking flights or whatever. And so my analogy, and I don't know how many parents are here, is like having a child, and you set certain limits on the number of transactions, and then you kind of review, and if they go a bit above or so, then you can actually go in and see what happened, right? So it's almost like giving your agent an allowance, right, that you can then adjust over time and review.
Yeah, I would just say I agree with both of you. Looks like it's dead. I agree with both of you. I think another layer to it is, I keep harping on this multi-agent aspect. I think if you have agents checking up on other agents, I think that solves things very quickly. More compute, but I think it's worth it. But in terms of human validation in the beginning, like you mentioned, I definitely agree. Yep.
Yeah, it makes sense. Also, when you were talking about this, I just realized, like, let's say an agent is managing a fund, let's say agent is managing $100 million fund, and then the agent did a very bad investment. And this could not be like, when I say bad, it's not that it's bad due diligence. It's like a terrible decision. Maybe the ticket size was too high. Maybe it was completely out of range, right? Who becomes liable from a legal perspective in this case? Now, if you put in these guardrails with smart contracts, you can at least, think of that, and otherwise you're going to be negligible for not thinking about this in advance. So I do think it makes sense if we're thinking about a future where agents will actually manage funds on behalf of institutional and retail investors.
Oh yeah. So what you say, thanks, remind me of an analogy. Before building OKcontract, I was working in cybersecurity, and there are a lot of customers of cybersecurity products who just buy them for liability reasons. And I've even seen large corporations buy $1 million worth of cybersecurity software and almost not install it. Like, they just deploy it on an almost unused server, and with some of the teams, tech teams, who were wondering, yeah, but why is there no traffic, etc. And basically, we understood that they checked the legal compliance box, and they bought it. That's it.
Interesting.
So just to build, sorry, on this analogy, is I think that having security mechanisms in place is something that many people will think is shielding them from a legal perspective. And well, I would say that if we build the cybersecurity in the right way, then it really helps. It's not only for the liability, but
yeah, I think it's going to be inevitable, basically. If we do assume that agents are going to manage funds on-chain, this is going to be inevitable. Okay, let's shift gears. Curious about, and I want you to give me just one answer. What is your favorite AI agent right now, on-chain AI agent? Let's have one from each of you.
Shall we start on that side? So I have
No, your favorite baby of the venture fund first.
Wow, so many. Okay, I'll just pick one. It's Fuzz AI. It launched, I think, on Monday, and it was actually presenting yesterday at our demo day. So, in short, I mean, the name comes from fuzzing, right? I guess it's a cybersecurity term, but it's an adversarial environment for agents to, kind of battle each other and eventually to try to jailbreak each other. The nice thing is that while I think the approach and the thinking is a bit more kind of infra security side, the team is also providing retail users betting opportunities on the outcome. So it's slightly financialized, and I would say it's almost at the intersection of security and entertainment.
Oh, is it like the CDS?
Yeah.
It's a bit like longing or shorting CDS, something like that.
Not quite, I would say. But it's more like imagine if imagine if you put two agents in an environment where they battle each other out, and of course, like from a user's perspective, it looks, obviously not looking at code or anything like that, right? You're just looking at two agents kind of talking to each other. But I think that the plan is to build an adversarial environment for security, and then eventually get people to just bet on it, and actually have a token model that enables this whole thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. Eliza and Luna, probably.
Come on.
Yeah, they're sisters in my eyes, so I like them. Yeah.
Eliza, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And okay, going to say Vader because their founder is the best moderator you can find.
That was the right answer.
The most wise answer. Thank you. So when we think about agents on chain, what do you think is the most innovative thing that would happen going forward?
So just kind of, agents on chain, just kind of general, what should be kind of the next?
Yeah, like what do you think we have not seen yet that would take Web3 agents to the next level?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So my view is a bit less on the I guess the development of the AI part. Actually, it's more on the token. I think one thing that we hope will, especially on-chain agents, will kind of take us to the next leg up is some very innovative tokenomics. I don't have the answer on what that is yet, and I think I think there's a lot of teams kind of working through that, thinking through that. But I think we started out with a lot of experiments, roughly last summer, right, with people just launching these tokens or agents launching tokens, and then we went to like the first kind of like the V0.1 of token utility, which is like a token gated terminal, right? But I think we've yet to see like true utility for the token. Like let's call it the liquidity mining moment for agents. What is that going to be that really beyond what we've talked about? Let's say like crypto payments and rails and whatnot. What is that token utility that makes people think like, yeah, that's why they need a token. I think that's going to take us on the next leg up, outside of whatever gets developed from an AI product perspective.
I see. It's so when I hear liquidity incentives, liquidity mining.
Well, it's not the best.
I get a bit worried.
Well, it's not maybe the best example, right? But that was a big catalyst for DeFi, and of course it had a lot of pitfalls, right? And it was not perfect. But I guess the analogy is more as like what's that thing that is like, okay, yeah, this makes a lot of sense, and this can bring in users, partnerships, etc. Yeah, I don't know what's the answer though.
Okay.
Like I said, I think agent-to-agent communication is still very primitive, even in how they communicate. A few days ago, I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's this video where two AI assistants both realize they are AI assistants and then start speaking something called Gibberlink, which is I think 80% more efficient in terms of communication. But I think that's still extremely primitive. So you can see a world in which there are thousands of agents that are communicating extremely quickly, and all of a sudden, if we don't personally get something like maybe like a Neuralink installed within the next 5-10 years, I think humans become irrelevant just because of how quickly this is moving, just in the AI agent space. So that's, I guess, my thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely Star Wars was right. And so to me, I would say one of the most interesting things that we will notice is probably some kind of meta-programming in the agent space, which is agents writing new agents, and especially with permissionless platforms deploying new agents. And that could be very interesting because some agents could program and the code of another agents, of new agents basically, and that could spark a gigantic ecosystem where they create themselves, basically, the agent create themselves, and if they are, let's say, valuable enough, they will get traction. Most of them, there will be maybe millions of these agents who go nowhere, but the one who are valuable, then they can grow a lot. And this is why I think we need to make sure that some core features, like the wallet access, for instance, is something that is deterministic, fixed, let's say a core capacity of the platforms, and you can trust it, and then it enables to experiment way more in the way we generate agents. And because right now with, for instance, if you take O3 or DeepSeek maybe, they are at the level where if you constrain enough the programming, they are able to write agents by themselves. And that is going to be very funny.
How soon do you think we can have at least like agents replacing software engineers? And this is a personal question.
Yeah, I would say probably a couple years.
Yeah, our CEO is trying to fire me, basically replace me. So it's going to happen fast, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the future of startups is team of one. No, I'm just joking.
Any questions from the audience? Shikai?
Yeah, in terms of accountability, that's our biggest challenge actually right now. I think we were going to speak about that. This accountability of what one agent will perform and what agents actually check up on them and how they evaluate and basically reassess their future interactions. I think it's something that's the biggest difficulty for us right now. Right now, we're just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks in terms of the number of agents that are actually performing these accountability checks. But obviously, that needs to be improved. It needs to be more comprehensive and more intelligent. Keep tuned.
And sorry, I would add, especially for swarms, that if there are swarms, if there are multiple agents, basically they each somehow have their own financial responsibility, and they will each have their own smart accounts and possibly deploying the smart contracts when they escrow things or whatever, and they negotiate that. And in the end, ultimately, every agent is somehow taking their own risk, even when negotiating or working together with a swarm.
One word, staking.
Transactional, one kind of opposing word to that is relational, right? So I'm curious about how y'all think about AI agents transforming human relations as opposed to just like making faster transactions, automating labor productivity, right? So I think we've seen like intimacy agents or all these kind of like different human relations. I'm curious what are y'all seeing in terms of the future for relational AI agents, maybe as opposed to transactions?
I'm actually.
No, go ahead.
I'm actually way more excited about that than anything trading, anything crypto, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot that you can do with it. One of the most fascinating things I've seen is just in dating apps, for example, right? So if you create an agent with a character file that is as comprehensive as you deem it to be, to kind of reflect who you are, you essentially have that agent communicate with everyone else's agent, and you quickly find the most compatible for yourself. I think that's pretty fascinating in terms of, you mentioned like intimacy, like personal relationships. Even something like that is incredible. So yeah, I think there's a lot more than just the crypto space. It is important, of course, but I think there's a lot of human-to-human relationship aspects of it that we haven't even touched yet.
From the output side, how you can trust these agents outputs physically. And if you see they are going to interact with the smart contracts as well, there should be some restriction, you can say policy. How do you see guardrails fit best? Is there any different direction where do you see like guardrails fit best?
I can share some views on that. I think maybe to your example around the $100 million fund and using that as an example for the guardrails, I think one way to think about it, if you think about a fund manager today, like a human fund manager, right? They go and raise some money, typically with like a strategy, like, okay, I'm going to be investing in these verticals. This is my typical check size and some ranges, and there's a whole bunch of different parameters, right? I think the same way you would think about the agent, right? That you would set a certain number of parameters. But there's an element, and I hate to use the word trust, but there's an element of like, okay, I tell you, like you can deploy between 100 to 500K, but it's completely up to you if it's 100, 200, or 500, right? That part is, it has to be autonomous, but you can't go beyond 500, and that's one of the guardrails, right? And there may be like, I don't know, the stage or the vertical, whatever, that could be also guardrails. I think that's one way for that example. I think another example I think of is more on a personal level. If you say, hey, I'm going to have my net worth and I want it to grow, or at least to beat inflation, let's say, for example, if you're super conservative. I think like with any investment today is just don't put all the eggs in one basket, right? Don't just give all your net worth to one agent with some parameters and guardrails, but actually diversify across different agents. I think that just kind of makes sense.
Yeah, maybe adding a word on guardrails. So basically, the way we see things is there will be catalogs of interactions that exist in one form or another, and basically the users of the agents or the agents themselves will pick the parts that they want to allow in this catalog, and maybe the agents won't be allowed to go outside of the scope. I guess it's like you're a VC fund and you have a mandate with your LPs, and basically you don't go outside of it, and it's about the same, but more general from transacting on-chain for agents. Like basically you'll tell your agents, okay, this is the list of things that you're allowed to do, and you don't go out of this list.
Okay, let's wrap it up. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining the panel. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.